Learning for Schus V'Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael. There should be Shem should be Shomer Yisrael. Okay, now we're in the middle of a sugya. We had a question. Rabbi Elazar said the following: a kuti cannot marry a kutis. A kuti could not marry a kutis, and we're wondering why. So there was two mahalchim. They were both the same mahalach. A guy, if you hold like Rabbi Akiva, that Kidushin is not typhus by Chave Lavim, and the child's a mamzer, then a kuti can marry a kutis, because there might be a mamzer in there. There might be a mamzer in there, and there might be a regular Jew in there, and therefore a guy can't marry the mamzer, can't marry the guy. Excuse me. That there's a guy, we're holding that the kutim ageri arayos, they were gerim as a result of the lion, so they have a halacha of goyim. One of the kutis may be a mamzer. It might be a mamzer because of chayve lavim, and therefore you would have the reason why the kuti can marry the kutis is because the mamzer might be marrying a guy. We rejected it for two reasons. One, the premise was that Rabbi Shmuel, who said it's a geri arayos, held like Rabbi Akiva, we did away with that. And the premise was Rebbe Elazar held like Rabbi Akiva, and we did away with that. So we're looking for an answer. Like Rebbe Elazar, why can't a kuti marry a kutis? We are on Ayin Hey Amid Beis. We're on Ayin Hey Amid Beis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. About 11 lines to the bottom. Actually, higher than that. Kiyas Rav and Amrav Chia Bar Abba, Amrav Yochanan, Vimila, Amrav Abba Bar Zavda, Amrav Chanina, Vimila, Amrav Yaakov Bar Idi. Look how they wanted to make sure they've said the name of the right person. Amrav Yeshua ben Levi. Shloisha Machloikas is Bedavid. There's three Machloikas in this matter. Three Machloikas in. Rabbi Shmuel Savar Kute Geri Aroyas Hang. Kutim are in fact they're Gerim, they're Goyim. They're not real Gerim. They only Gerim as a result of the lions. The Kahanim Shenimu Behem. Kahanim psulim. As a result, the kahanim that are mixed in with them have a din of psulim. They're puzzle because again, if they came, they're goyim, they're puzzle. It's a zaina to live with them. Okay. When it says miktsasam, it means that these were mikoitzim and am, like the thorns of the am. And therefore, they were puzzled to come in. A kuti and kutis could not go ahead. They can't come to kahal, right? But a kuti that was a kuti, and a kuti would marry a kutis because we're not going to ask the sveik on. That's Rabbi. So that wouldn't be a problem like Rabbi Shua ben Levi. However, Rabbi Akiva said that like Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Akiva said kuti geri emes hen. Kutim were geri emes. They were geri emes. Ukahanim shenimu behem kahanim ksherim. And the kahanim mixed among them. Therefore ksherim hayu. Shneimar vayasu lehem miktsoisam koinei bamois. V'amar Rabbi Rachana. You know what miktsoisam means? Rabbi Yochanan min habechirim sheba. It means from the chosen ones. So therefore, ma asrum. Why were they asa? Because they would go ahead and they would only do yibum to the arusais. And the ones that were married, they would let go. So in other words, if a woman was in the stage of erisin and her husband died, then they would fall to yibum. If a woman was in a state of nisuin and her husband died, not. Now we, of course, this is the Yavam L'Shuk. We hold that lot, of course, whether from erisin or nisuin, especially mostly times from nisuin, that it's a Yavam L'Shuk. And now what was their drasha? My darshi, Eishes Hames HaChutza, the Eishes Hames, when she's Chutza, meaning when she is outside, she's not in the Suah, she's in Arusa, Leish Zar, then what? She shouldn't go to an Izar, but she Yavama Yava Aleha. Hach the Yasva Chutza, the one that is outside of marriage, means she's in Arusa, he Leisiel Izar. Aval Hach, an Suah, the Yasva Chutza, TL Izar, but she's not, okay? And therefore what? It's a chayve lavim. They're chayve lavim and the mamzerim, right? Because if Yavam L'Shuk is chayve lavim, it'd be mamzerim. But kilu tanei dama yesh mamzerim chayve lavim, and therefore we passel them. So according to the first pshat, they're passel because they geri arayos. According to the second pshat, is even though they geri emes, but they messed up the halachas of yibum, and since Rabbi Akiva holds chayve lavim, and they're over on this of Yavam L'Shuk, there's mamzeris there among the kutim. They're not b'kiyim in dikduke mitzvahs. Now, this is the one that we need because this is the one that's going to be what that you can't marry. They can't marry each other. Matzahs kutim, the matzahs of kutim muteres, they are mutar. And a person would be yoytze his chiyuv on Pesach. Matzah, a kuti is matzah. A person would be yoytze. They mamish, they dagdik. They make it matzah lishma, and therefore you will be able to eat them on Pesach. Rabbi, there's an oyster. Rabbi says no, not. If yishem bekim b'tidui mitzvahs, they're not experts in performing mitzvahs, and so they're not experts here as well. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer kol mitzvah shechzik b'kutim harbe migdagdim yoysim Yisrael. Rabbi Gamliel says the kol mitzvahs that they're machzik, the kutim, they're more medag than Yisrael. The Gemara in Chulin speaks out the nafkamina between the Chachamim, Tanakama, and Rabbi Gamliel. So it didn't Rabbanan. What's ein bekiyin? What's the ein bekiyin over here? Fishein bekiyin b'Torah's Kidushin Megerishin. They're not experts in Torah and Gerishin. So we have three opinions over here why the kutim couldn't marry, right? Yisraelis. Because of this reason, that ein medagnim mitzvahs explains why a kuti can't marry a kutis. In other words, why can't a kuti marry into Yisrael, guys, according to the first opinion? Because they're goyim. Why couldn't a kuti marry into Klal Yisrael? Because they can sign mamzerim because of chayvi lavin like Rabbi Kiva. What's the third reason? And this is the one we need, guys. Because remember, what's our mission? Why can't a kuti marry a kutis? So now the reason is because they're not medagdik. Guys, you with me so far? Guys, look at me, please. Look at me. We're trying to figure out why a kuti can marry a kutis. We just went in tangentially and we spoke out three opinions, and the only one we need is the last one. But the three opinions are why a kuti can't marry into Klal Yisrael, according to Rabbi Shmuel, because they're goyim. According to Rabbi Akiva, because they're mamzeris. According to Rabbi Eliezer, because why? Because they're not medayik mitzvahs. And only this one is the reason they can't marry each other. Like the first two reasons, because the goyim and mamzerim, let them marry each other. Who cares? Only this reason is the reason they can't, and this is the one we need. Now, what are we worried about, concerned if they're not medayik mitzvahs? Let's see Rashi, guys. Let's see Rashi. Says Rashi, 4 lines down. If you she'em bekiyin asurim, ulakumam firish le'inyan yuchsin, my bekiyin nika hilkach. L'Rebbe Eliezer kuti lo yisakutis. A kuti should marry a kutis. Shema echad min habekiyim shalei ira psul b'nisui avaisav. One of them is from the bekiyim, and they're makbid, and they're kosher v'yasha. V'hasheni mishe'ena bekiyim, and the second one is not baki. The ira safik eshes ish. Kidushin avaisav. Said niskat shel acher v'amru ein Kidushin v'nisas la'acher she'll be mekudesh to someone. They're not experts, not realizing that she really is married to this guy. She'll marry another guy. A get is thrown. Safik karvloi, safik karvlah. They don't know what the halacha is. They'll say, okay, she's divorced. Marry another one. So since they're not medadik in mitzvahs over here, what are you concerned? You'll have one that is, one that isn't. They can't marry each other because one will be a full-fledged yid and the other one not. That's the reason. That's the reason. Not because of Rabbi Shmuel, not because of Rabbi Akiva, like yesterday's pshat, even now, not because Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shmuel. That would only explain why kuti can marry a Yisrael. This pshat, Rabbi Eliezer, is the only one that explains why a kuti can marry a kutis, because since they're done medagdik, one might be medagdik, one might be medagdik, and therefore it would go ahead and cause problems. Guys, we're good? We're good, guys? So the last one is the one we needed. Okay, the Gemara continues. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Ravua, Mamze me'achoisoi u'mamze me'eshes ach nisarvu behen. I got a problem. The kutim, right? They're also to marry a kutis because they are mamzeris from achoisoi, which is a chi of karis, and eshes ach, which is a chi of karis. They're mixed in there. My kamash malon yesh mamze mechayve krisus nislichada. They're both chayve karis. Your sister Yechayev Karis and your sister-in-law Yechayev Karis. So why are you listening to two separate cases? It says, "Go on, that was the Maisa." The Rava Amar Eved v'Shivcha nisarvu b'hem. Among the kutim, there was an Eved and Shivcha mixed in there, and this is the Marsha explains. This is another reason why a kuti can marry a kutis, either because there's mamzeris mixed in there, or because there is Shivchas Abdus, lack of yuchsin marry in there. So now, an Eved and a Shivcha are the same thing. Mishamayim mishum Shivcha nislichada. That was it. So Lamaskana we have two Terachim, according to explain why Akuti came out Akuti is according to Rabbi Laza. One because of the Shittas Rabbi Eliezer and Namidagdik. Another one according to Rav Nachman, the name of Rabbi Ravua, is because there's Mamzeris mixed in there, or because there was Shivcha mixed in there. Good. Hanaisa Isha, someone marries a woman, Kohenes. Hanaisa Isha Kohenes, someone who's marrying what? A Kohenes. Sarach livdach achareha. You have to check after her. You have to check after her lineage. What are you worried about? Rashi, Boitkin, go down a few lines. That there shouldn't be mamzeris or one of them what that's mixed into the what in a psula mixed in. So you're worried about, that's what you're worried about. That's what you're worried about. And it's mashma, anyone who gets married. No, isha kahenis, lav dafka kayin. Tzarich livdach achareha. If you look at Tosfos, tzarich livdach achareha. Okay, go down a few lines. Lakach tzarich leimar the chashasha demasnisan he mishum chalalis. We're speaking about a chalal and we're speaking about dafka kayin. We're speaking dafka a kayin, and we're worried about chalal. We're not worried about manzeris. We're worried about a chalal. We're worried about a chalal, not manzeris. So now, how do you check? Says the Gemara back in the Mishnah. I know Sisha Kain is tzarich livdach achareha arba imahos shehin shmeina. Four women that are 8, because you're checking on 2 tzadim. Ima, her mother, Aimima, the mother's mother, the Aim Avi Ima, the mother of her mother's father, the Ima, and the mother of the mother's father, the Aim Aviha, the mother of her father, the Ima, and the mother of her mother's father, the Aim Avi Ima, the mother of the father's father, the Ima and her mother. So that you're checking 8 up to that. And if you find them kosher, then you don't have to worry about. You're going to go one more, maternal grandmother of the 4. You're going to go one more. According to the Rambam, one more. In other words, it's going to be, according to Rambam, it's going to be 10. According to other ones, it's going to be 12. Let's say you go ahead and you checked out the girl's father, and it turns out to be he was a Kayin, right? You're checking out the mother of the father, and it turns out to be a Kayin. Then you don't have to worry. Stop right there. You don't have to go back 8. Because why? Because if we found kosher for the avodah, you can be sure that what there's no, according to Rashi, no mamzeris. According to Tosfos, no chalala. By Leviah, if you find out that the grandfather was on the bandstand, you don't have to check beyond that. If you're checking out the yichus of Yisrael, if you find out the Zayda was on the grandstand, was on the Sanhedrin, you don't have to check beyond that. And we'll see what we're talking about with Sanhedrin. And anyone who's turned out that his forefathers were members of the members of a Sanhedrin, meaning three, not the 23, the capital punishment, not the 71, just the regular Bezdin. Also, the Gabait Tzedakah, Masiyan Lekahuna. In all these cases, if you check out a father from a Sanhedrin or a Dinei Maminis, or Gabait Tzedakah, you can marry them to the Kahuna. You don't have to check out anymore, as we're going to see the Gemara give the reason. Rabbi Yossi says, Af mi shahaya chasam aid ba'orchei yashna shel tzipuri, the town of Yashna shel tzipuri. I think that's the name, the way you pronounce it. I think it's the town of Yashna in Tzipuri. Yeah, Hashana, excuse me. Bi'arkei Hashana, in the town of Hashana, there they would only go ahead and sign an Adis who was a miyuchis, and therefore you don't have to check more than that. A soldier of the Melech, we'll see whose army he was a miyuchis. So the Mishnah says you have to go ahead and check her yichus, and right, and you check her yichus, but you don't check his yichus. In other words, when you go in checking, you want to know. Let's say you want to know if this girl can marry the kohen. Good. There's 2. There's the father and the mother. You're only checking the mothers. You're not checking the fathers. There's a father and a mother. You're only checking the mothers, 8 going back 8 on the mother's side. On the mother's side, you have a paternal and maternal side, and you're checking those 2. But over here, you're not checking the father of the girl. Now, why not? Maishna benashi but kina. No, maishna begarvei the men but the fascinating svara, guys. Nashi dechi minsi adadi hade adadi. When women are fighting. Ba'ayoras who the minse. they'll go ahead and accuse the other one of being a lowlife. They'll curse her in immorality. You're an immoral, you're a zayna, a harlot, you call her prostitute, you call her whatever you call her, but it's an inyan arroyas. Vim isa de ikimilsa, and if there's a matter of tainted lineage, lo isle kola. There's not going to be a call because they don't go ahead and say those things. They, they pick their poison, and their poison is not to go ahead and discuss lineage. It's to discuss arroyas. Gavre, the chiminansu bahade right? Right? You call a guy Wada Mamza, right? We spoke that out. L'chaira, right? This is, we're going to go ahead and question his lineage. So Memela, and since they argue biyuchsin, if there was anything that was a shemetz over the time, we would have found out in someone going ahead and speaking derogatory about his lineage, we would have found it out. So it's only necessary by the woman who argue regarding arroyos, rather than what men who argue will go ahead and use lineage. So therefore, we would have known about it, and therefore there's no need to check out the men's side. Fascinating. Says the Gemara, "EU nami tibduk be bididei," right? Why don't we check out him? No, it's only checking out what? Her. Why don't you check out him? Messiah leila Rav, dam Rav Yehuda Marav, like husru kashrus linase lipsulim, right? There's no reason that the woman has to check him out, because even if he's puzzle, there's no mitzvah for the kohenes to not marry someone who is untainted. In other words, only so a mitzvah on the kohen we worry about the chalal. We don't worry about what the kohenes. She's able to go ahead and marry someone, so therefore there's no need to check it out. One more time. Dam Rav Yehuda Marav, like husru kashrus linase lipsulim. They're not muzur kashrus and not muzur to go ahead and marry psulim. There's no issa for a kohenes not to marry psulim kahuna, even though kahanim are, they're not. Okay. So a kohen can marry giyoris, a kohen can marry a chalala, but a bas kohen could marry a chalal, a bas kohen could marry giyoris. Therefore, there's no need to check. Okay, the Gemara, we said in the Mishnah you're going to check 8 guys, right? Again, you have without going through each one, you have a girl has a mother and a father. On each one, you're going to check 4. You're going to go up 4. So therefore, you have a total of 8. Says the Gemara, one second. Is that true? That's 12. In a Brisa we learned, or Tesefta, which is a total of 16. Now, it says it's 12 Amid Beis, right? Mukim la beLevia ubas Yisrael. We can say, as our Mishnah said, you can go up one more generation by what? By the Levi. So, and Yisrael, you go up one more generation. So therefore, the 8 becomes 4 more on each side, two on each side, which is a total of 12. El Masisa, name of Pligi, let the Mishnah 16 argues on our Mishnah. It says, my oid achas zug, my oid achas zug achas. It does, when in one, it means 2. It means you're going to check 2 more on one side and 2 more on the other side, and each one is going to be 4. So you're going to have a total of another 8, which is a total of 16. I'm Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Zudiv Reb Meir. Our mission that requires checking is the words of Reb Meir. You don't have to check it all. Stamazah, you do not have to check it all. We're a chazaka of what? Of kashrus. Fred Moini, is it really so? We're in a chazaka of kashrus. Amarav Chama Bar Gurya, Amarav Mishnah Seinu Kishekoira Love Error. Our Mishnah is speaking when you're koira love error, right? So why did the Rabbanan argue on that? If it's speaking where what? You tell me the Mishnah is Reb Meir. On the other hand, you tell me our Mishnah is speaking where a rumor went out. There's an era of 2 people that is in this mishpacha. We don't know who they are, but someone in the mishpacha is tainted. Why would the Chacham argue on that? It says, the one who learned the Mishnah is according to the Reb Meir and not the Chachamim, did not learn this that it's speaking about an era. But if there was an era, the Chachamim would agree. So, and that's what the Ikad Army is. So Ikad Army, I'm Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Zudiv Reb Meir that you have to check for 8 mothers. Al Chachamim Moimrim Kol Mishpachos Bechesed Kashrus Ein Amdais. Rav Chaim Bar Gurya Amarav in Koirel of Era. If a rumor goes out about having a tainted part of the mishpacha, Tzarich Liv Acharecha, you have to check afterwards. So if you wonder why we don't do these things, well, we're a little lost because we're mixed in, as we spoke out so many times. Once you mix in, we're mixed in. Even Rabbi Akiva is not going to go. Even Eliyahu Navi is not going to go ahead and point it out. But anyway, here's the Rambam, guys. Here's the Rambam. The Rambam is Yutes from Isurei Bia. The Rambam is Yutes Isurei Bia. And here's the lashon of the Rambam. Kol mishpachos b'cheskas kashrus. All mishpachos are on the chazaka being mutter. Lisa behen lechatchila. Lechatchila, you don't have to check at all. The afal pikein imra is shtei mishpachos. Now we had this earlier. If you have two mishpachos shemitagre zu bezu that are fighting, tamid, the hatfuls and the McCoys. Isa mishpacha shehi balas matzah umeriva tamid, or mishpacha that's always fighting. Bar pluktis, always machlekes, being involved machlekes all the time. Isa ish shu marbe meriva imakol, or a person who constantly is getting into fights with people. The asponim, and his face is one of azus, biyoser, more than the norm. Choishishin lahen, we're choishish in his mishpacha for besulim, v'roi lisrachik mehen, and the Rambam says it's roi to distance himself from them. She'elu simoni paslos heim. These are simonim of paslos. These are simonim of things that are wrong. V'chein hapoiselas acherim tamid. Someone who goes ahead and detracts from people all the time. He detracts from people. He's always finding chesroinus in people. Kigoin shenoisin shemes b'mishpachas le'biyichidim. V'yomer aleihem shehem mamzerim. He says they're mamzerim. Choishish loi v'choishish that shem mamzu. Maybe he's a mamzer. V'mam alehem shehem avodim. Choishish loi shem evedhu. Maybe he's an eved. Shekol hapoisel b'muma poisel. Anyone who passes other, he's passing like himself. Right. V'chein mi sheyesh lei boy azis ponim oyach zorius. The soines abrios. A person who has azis ponim and he's cruel and he hates people. The Eina Goimel Lehem Chesed, he's not Goimel Chesed. Chosheshin Loi Biyosa Shemi Gevainihu. Maybe he's from the Gevainim. That's the Gevainim. They tricked Yeshua, and Yeshua made Chayt Ve'etzim Shoyvei Mayim, and they wanted revenge from Shoals. There was a famine at the end of David's life, and the Gevainim only wanted revenge. David was going to give them a king's ransom, and all they wanted was revenge. And he gave over Mishpacha Shaul, and they killed them. Shesimoni Yisrael Uma Hakadoisha. What's the simonim of Klal Yisrael? Lashon the Rambam. By Shonim, Rachmanim, V'Gomle Chasadim. Again, what is the simon of Klal Yisrael? Especially what we just experienced on October 7th. The haris of what people are capable of doing. The simonim of the Ummah of Klal Yisrael. By Shonim, Rachmanim, V'Gomle Chasadim. Right. Ubi Gavoinim Umaymer. They're not Bnei Yisrael. Why? If you say Yisu Paneim, playing the Spaisu, the Azis Panim, and they weren't appeased. Play Rachmu al Bnei Shol, they had no Rachmanis on the children of Shol. Play Gomli Yisrael Chesed, Limchol Lemneim Malcolm Vehimasim Imam Chesed. After we did Chesed with them, the lashon of the Rambam in Hilchos Yisrael, a beautiful lashon of the Rambam explaining the Shita. So again, gives us a perspective of the uniqueness of Klal Yisrael, the children, the Zerah of Avraham. The Zerah of Avram, we were purified, fellas, by purified either by the Avos. Avram had a Yishmael, got rid of him. Yitzchak had an Esav, got rid of him. Yisrael, Yishtach Yisrael Rosh Hamita, Al Shehashim Mitash Shlema, that was cleansed. The Avos got rid of the Zuhama that the Nachash placed in Chava. The Gemara in Shabbos says also, in addition, by Har Sinai, those who stood by Har Sinai were cleansed, and the Umas Olam not, and that's why you could see such things happening in the world, such unbelievable things. So Baruch Hashem. So therefore, we don't check unless there's an error, it's a rumor, and that's why it's put down la halacha in Ibn Ezra, Simon base. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read to you the halacha. Basically, the Mechaber brings down the lashon of the Rambam, right? We saw a lot of this Gemara, fellas. Let's just reiterate. It says that this is in Ibn Ezra, Hilchos Pirivya, Perik Simon Aleph. La yisa adam isha sheyesh b'shum psul. You should marry a woman who has a psul. Says the Rama, Kol hanoisa isha psula mishum mammon. Anyone who's willing to marry an isha psula because of she has money, havle bonim sheina muganim. You can have children that are not good. Aval belav hachi sheina psula love el shenoisa mishum mammon. We said mutter. We spoke this out. Moshe, we spoke at that. Adarab, you could marry if it's not a problem. And then in Simon Beis, Kol mishpachas becheskes kashrus and mutter lisa ben lechatchila. If you see again the lashon, the Mamish brings the lashon of the Rambam verbatim. So again, that's why we Baruch Hashem we don't check and for yichus and even the kuno we don't know kahanamar and B'ez Hashem in the future when Eliyahu comes he'll tell us who the kahanamar. You'll know which shevet you're from. You know which shevet you're from. But most of us are either from Yehuda or from Levi, or from Binyamin, right? And let's go weiter. You don't check from the Mizbechel Amayla, meaning if you had you began to check the 8 and you found out that one of the fathers, the husbands of the woman was going ahead, and he was doing the avodah, you don't have to check beyond that. My timer, he loved the beduka, like Havi Maskile. If that he wasn't checked out, they want to let him go ahead and do the avodah. When you give him checking the Levium and you find out they're okay, then you don't have to check beyond that, right? My time, what's the reason? Damamar, Shesham Hayoshrim, there in the Azora sat the Kahanet, the Bezdin that Miyachse Kahuna Miyachse Levia who Miyachas them. Blame Sanhedrin Lamaila, my time at the Tanya of Yosef. What's the reason that you don't have to check from the, once you begin to check and you see that the people are Miyuchis, why don't you have to go beyond that? Blame Sanhedrin Lamaila, my timer, because Rabbi Yosef says, Kishem She Bezdin Menukim B'Tzedek, just like when it comes to what? Righteousness, they're squeaky clean. Kach Menukim Mikolmum, they're going to be squeaky clean from any tainted lineage. Amma Marema, my Kara, what's the pasuk? It says in Shir Hashirim, Kulach Yafa Rayasi, Umum I'm saying Mum Bach means there's no psul of Yuchsin. Fred Gemara Ema Muma Mamish, maybe it means a physical blemish. How do you know it means a tainted? Maybe it means a physical blemish. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, Amakar, the pasuk says, Is Yatsu Sham Imach. It says that the Moshe Imach b'daimim l'cha. The Miyuchas like Moshe Rabbeinu. That the Miyuchas like Moshe Rabbeinu. These are the Shivas Zekanim. Says Gemara, V'dilma Mishum Shechina. Maybe the Shivas Zekanim, especially, have to be squeaky clean because they're going up with Moshe Rabbeinu. Rav Nachman Amakar, the pasuk says by Yisro, when he gave him advice, he says, "V'hakam me'elecha," and it'll make it easier on you. V'nasu itach b'daimim l'cha. They're similar to you, meaning just like Moshe is without tainted lineage, so too they have no tainted lineage. Kol misha hochsiku avoisav mishtreitri harabim. We said that they're muksik, that their fathers were from the Shtreitri harabim. You can be assured that they're squeaky clean. L'meimra delay mukminon nipsulin. You mean you can't have a dying that's puzzle? Remino, I'll ask you a stira. So you could have a dying that's puzzle. It says hakol ksherim lodin dine mamanis. Anyone is permitted to go ahead and judge monetary matters. Ve'ena kol ksherim lodin dine nefashis, but capital punishment not. Ba'avinamba. Hakol asuy mai. What's the call that you can judge dini mamnis mean? But Amar Rav Yehuda asuy mamza, that a mamza could go ahead and judge dini mamnis. So how can you make the statement if you go ahead and check out a dayan who judges dini mamnis that is squeaky clean? We see that halachically a mamza can be part of that bezdin. So I'm Rabbi of Yerushalayim. We're not speaking about outside in Yerushalayim. In Yerushalayim they wouldn't accept the mamza. When the Mishnah says a dayan who judges dinei mamnis means in Yerushalayim. Guys, in Yerushalayim there were the bezdin of 23 that sat outside the Azara, and then you had the bezdin of 71 that was in the Lishkas Agazis. And outside Yerushalayim itself, you had a batei dinim of 3. So even though in the Medina, outside Yerushalayim, a mamza could be part of the bezdin of 3, in Yerushalayim, you could not be part of bezdin of 3. So when our Mishnah says you'll be ma'ila v'yiluchsin, someone whose father was a dayan on a bezdin of 3, that means in Yerushalayim. But in Achanami, outside Yerushalayim, you'd have to be chayish for perhaps mamsevis. The Chen Tani Reb Shimon by Zera, the Kidushin, the Belevi, and on the side of Shai says in the Tosefta Masechtas Kidushin that is Misad, that Levi was Misader, right? It says what that Yerushalayim. It's speaking Yerushalayim. He said a Gabbai Tzedakah. Also, you don't have to check if you find out that his father was a Gabbai Tzedakah. He's miyuchis. Listen to this reasoning. The Gabbai Tzedakah Masiyim, they were married to the Kahuna. My time. What's the reason? Kevon the Minsu Bahadeinshi. Since the Gabbai Tzedakah, guys, the Gabbai Tzedakah was like the sheriff. You know the sheriff, the guy, the car. You see that car? It's never good when you see that car, that sheriff car, because he's putting the boot on somebody. This guy. The Gabbai Tzedakah, if you made a Nadav of Tzedakah and you didn't give it, you know what they would do? They'd come to your house and they'd take a mashkin. So you can imagine this guy would get into a lot of fights. Says the Gemara, the Amar Mar Mimashkin in Ala Tzedakah. The Gabbai Tzedakah would take a mashkin until you give the Tzedakah. Imagine a guy walking, getting. So he's fighting all the time. Vafilu Erev Shabbos, and even Erev Shabbos, when people are busy and they're guaranteed to get into a fight, V'misa, the ikka, that if there is mishpacha, a tainted lineage, is leikala. In other words, this is men fighting on steroids. Now, this is the next level. Imagine, it's one thing. Women fight, they call each other Zaina. Men fight, they call each other Mamza. A gabbai tzedakah on a Friday taking a mashkin? Guaranteed. So again, since you never heard anything, it must be this gabbai tzedakah is squeaky clean, and therefore want his daughter can marry into the kahuna. A little story. Ushbezichne Rav Adabar Ava, the Balach Sanya, the innkeeper of Rav Adabar Ava, Ki Yoyrahave. He was the son of a ger. He wasn't a ger. He was the son of a ger, as we'll see. Vavikaminsi Ihu Rav Bibi, and him and Rav Bibi were having an argument. Mar Omar, Ano Avdina Sirarusa Demasa. I should be the type of political position to run the city. Umar Omar, Ano Avdina Sirarusa Demasa. And the other Rav Bibi said, I should be. So Asa, they came to Balach Sanya, the Kamei Rav Yosef, Amalahu Tanina, Soim Tasim Alecha Melech, Mikerev Achecha. When you place a person of importance, it should be what? Mikerev Achecha, like a king should be squeaky clean. So to over here should be squeaky clean. So if you're a ger and Rabibi's a bibi, I got to give the position to him. So kol mesimus masim, any position that you place in, la yel ella mikerev achecha should be from among your brothers. Like I'm saying, squeaky clean. So what happens if the mother of the ger is from Yisrael and the father was a ger? So what it says, Amalei Rabbi Yosef said to Rav Adavar Rava, Imam Yisrael, mikerev achecha kavina bei. He's the guy. So now there's no distinction. Rabbi and him are the same. That's Mikerev Achecha, the first generation, the ger. But once he's lived with Yisrael and now he's born, so therefore this Bezichna, he was the ben. Like I said, he wasn't a ger, he was ben. He was the son of a ger. Rabbi the Gavar Rabba, who so therefore here's the psak Hilkach. Rabbi the Gavar Rabba, who's a great person, he's in Torah. La'ayna b'mili d'shmaya, he should deal with the halachic matters of the city. Umar and the Balach Sanya, la'ayna b'mili d'masa, he should take care of other matters of the city that you needed. Rashi brings by that, for example, who would take care of the armory, who would take care of the wells, who would go ahead and install gates and the different infrastructure. He would take care of the physical needs of the city. So regarding this incident, Rabbi Hilkach, Mandim Mashre, someone takes in the Balach Sanya, Sumir Rabbanon Bishbezichna, should take in the Sumir Rabbanon, La Ashre should come in, Kirabad Rabba, the should be a Talmud Chacham, like Rabbi Rabba, the Yodi Lamahapik Besuse, who's able to mapik in the source of the Balach Sanya. So the Balach Sanya should make sure to have a Talmud Chacham there. Rabbi Zeir Metapel Bahu, Rabbi Zeir was being Metapel with Geirim to Mechabed them, and Rav Abba Rabua Metapel Bahu, right? He also, B'Marava in Eretz Yisrael. Afilu Reish Kur, that was in Bavel. Excuse me, Rabbi Zeir was in Eretz Yisrael. That was in Bavel. Avol b'marav in Eretz Yisrael, afilu reish kure, even the one in charge of making sure that the measurements were correct. They would not let a ger be in that position. And Nardoi, and even in Nardoi, which was in Bavel, afilu reish gargusa, even the one who was in charge of the bar. They had certain days that a person would draw from the irrigation from the bar. So there would be a person in charge to make sure that you didn't go on your day. You had to go on the day you're supposed to go. Right? It's like when the boycott. Remember the license plates? You had odd or even days. Oh my gosh, that's the worst. Anyway, says the Gemara. I feel they would not make even in the day, even to be in charge of the water, they would not put a ger in charge. Again, same all because of the pasuk same tasim alecha melech. We said a person who would sign in Yashana of Tzipure would be a miyuchis. My timer, daike umachtame, because in that place they first will look into yichus and then let you sign. Rabbi Chanina ben Tigna said, even what the army of Melech, Amr Yehuda Mishmul, which army of Melech, which king? The Chayelis shel Beis David. We're speaking about what the Chayelis of David's army. Amr Yosef, my karo, what's the pasuk? The pasuk says, the hit yachsam batsava b'milchama, and they would go ahead. They would check the yichus, and the yichus was traced in the army during the war. So you see a pasuk that they would check. They would check the yichus. The time of Mai. Why would they check the yichus? I'm review them around. They should have their schus and the schus of the father in battles. That Jewish battles are not won because of a physical powers. They're won in schusim. This week's parsha, Avram Avinu goes to war. He takes on 318. Says Rashi, Eliezer Levadai, right? Eliezer Levadai. Now, the 4 kings were incredibly powerful. They overcame the 5 kings. Oig was on the losing side, guys. Get an idea. Oig was on the losing side. Vayovu Apolit, he lost. He came. And he was on the losing side. How's it you're talking that Avram Avinu went to battle with one person? It doesn't make any sense. So the Maharal speaks out beautifully that Avram Avinu went to battle. And he went to battle with men. Why does it say 318? When it says Eliezer Levadoi, it means the schus of Eliezer Levadoi. It means Eliezer had a schus. I'd like to suggest what the schus was. If you look at Yonis ben Uziel on that pasuk, Eliezer was Bar Nimrod. He was the son of Nimrod. Rabbi Abi is going to love this. Amraphel was Nimrod. Eliezer was willing to go against his own father for Avram Avinu. That's why that was the schus of Eliezer. He was willing to go against his own father. So perhaps it's a wonderful interpretation that you see that, it's one in schusim, right? It's one in the schusim.
The famous interview, the son of the head of Hamas did the exact same thing in public. He totally ripped to shreds his father and his father's organization.
Yeah, I'm sure he's in hiding.
Deep hiding.
He's in the Witness Protection Program Plus, says the Gemara.
Well, Avram did the same thing. Avram went against his father also.
His father did true, right? He did. It's true, but you're right. But again, we're winning a battle over here. We have a schus. I'm trying to learn pshat in that. Over here, that you see that battles won in schusim. So I'm telling it to the Parsha Yehuda. Avram didn't go to battle. Avram went against his father, but he didn't go to battle. This is a guy, he went to battle against his father. Says the Gemara, Ve'ika, you're telling me that he only had Jewish people in his army with schusim? Ve'ika tzelek ha'amayni, it's mashma that word. He was one of the Rosh Giborim, tzelek ha'amayni, mashma is from Amoin. My love, the Yosemi Amoin. Says the Gemara, Loi, the Yosef ba'amoin. He lived there, but he was a Jew. Ve'ika Uriah ha'chiti, Urachiti, who was married to Bathsheba, who David had killed in battle. When it says Hachiti, my love the Asi meches, that he came from Ches, says Mer Loi the Yosef beches, he was what? He lived in Ches. Now, this is a problem for a pshat that I saw, and I gotta remember where I saw it. Guys, listen to this unbelievable pshat. David goes and kills Goliath. He wants to take the sword out of the scabbard of Goliath to cut off his head and pick it up. It seems that's what, and it would have scared everybody. He couldn't get the scabbard out because it had some type of hidden latch. He had a weapons carrier, Goliath, and David asked the weapons carrier. He asked the weapons carrier, "How do you get the sword out?" And he says, "I'm not going to tell you unless you give me a Bas Yisrael." So he said, "Maskin, I'm maskin," and he told him, and he took it out, and that's how it's. I've got the lashon, but you, David, are willing to give a Bas Yisrael to this guy. You're going to lose your own, and that's how Bathsheba, who was royal David Misheshes Mei Bereshis, ended up with Uriah Chiti. So based upon this, Uriah Chiti was a guy. He was a ger. It was not mashmel that he wanted a Bas Yisrael as much as a tain on David. Now I don't know if it's a medrash who says it. I could have seen it in Meyam Loes. I'm not sure, but again, there is another. According to this, he was not from Ches. According to this, he could be from Ches, but he wasn't living in Ches. He was because that's how David, or else how if Royu Bathsheba Basalim was Royal David Meshesem Bebrachis, if she was from the beginning of time his wife, how in the world she ended up married to another man, right? Okay, anyway, L'chol Hapachas says the Gemara.
The Cheshbon Shtim is also that it's like only 6 years from when that time until David ended up marrying her. That's how old she was. The Cheshbon would make sense also.
Well, she was 7 years old.
Yeah.
Says Gemara, V'ika Itai Hagiti. Now, Itai Hagiti was David's guy. He was this guy. He would go ahead and be Mevatel the Avodah Zarah. That's how David got so much money. A guy can take off the shame of Avodah Zarah of an Avodah Zarah. So the Chitema Hakanami that he came from what? He lived in Gas, but he really was what? A Jew. The Yosef Begas, Iva Amrav Nachman, Iti Agisi Bo Bitla. He came along as Mevatel the Avodah Zarah. So you see, he was a guy. Says Gemara, V'oid Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Arba Meas Yolodim Hayilol David. David had among his men, there were 400 Bacharim, V'kulam b'nei Ifas Toya Hayu, and they were all the children of Ifas Toya. Now, Pashto wasn't all David's kids, but among his men, they would be Ifas Toya. V'kulam Mistaprim Kumi. All of them would go ahead and take this kind of haircut. When we got them Belurius, and they had like this Mongol thing in the back, Hayu, which you're not allowed, again, this Avodah Zarah. And V'kulam Yoshrim B'Kranes Shalzov, they would go with chariots of gold. V'Yimahalchim B'Rosh Geyaisus, they would go in the beginning of the army. V'Heinin Bali Agroifim Shal Beis David, they were the strong men of David's house, right? So L'Chayri, you have a problem. What are you going to do with that? It says the Osli Lebusi the Alma. They only came what? They only came to go ahead and scare the enemy, but they weren't part of the army. I don't know how he answers the kasha Miti Agiti. In other words, he answers the kasha, these 400 guys, that they didn't do the actual battle. It doesn't seem to answer, what happened. What about Ita Agiti? I guess maybe he didn't battle. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't part of the battle. I'll have to answer that question. Okay, L'chol Pachas. Okay, tomorrow morning, Bez Hashem.